Abandoned in the wilderness, a last-minute discovery transforms a girl's life by an amazing cowboy. Emma stared at the sun dipping below the jagged horizon, painting the sky in fiery oranges and deep purples. The vibrant beauty felt like a cruel joke against the mundanity of her cramped trailer. Living in a small, dusty town in northern Arizona, with only her devoted mother working multiple jobs, was nothing short of a daily reminder of her place in the world. At 17, she was merely a note in a song, overshadowed by the dreams fluttering out of reach. Her heart whispered for botany, igniting with stories from her grandfather, a brilliant botanist long gone. Yet here she was, just another nameless face tucked among the crowded desks at school. As she hiked along the rugged trails, the breeze brushed against her skin, carrying the scent of wildflowers. Here, surrounded by cacti reaching for the sky, she felt alive. Emma had dedicated herself to documenting the local flora, her escape from daily pressures, and a project that could represent her chance at future possibility. It was in a hidden cave, awash in blossoms, where she stumbled across the old dusty diary. The pages spoke of a young man burdened with dreams and struggles, her grandfather's struggles, mirroring her own. Each word was a portal, igniting a fire in her chest. Could this be her path? Suddenly, footsteps interrupted her reverie. Cole appeared, the local cowboy with sun-kissed skin and calloused hands that danced through the flora, identifying the plants she had studied. With an infectious passion, he encouraged her to dig deeper. Their friendship blossomed against the backdrop of stunning sunsets. But as Emma's heart warmed towards him, the weight of her family's financial struggles loomed larger. What would happen the moment her dreams collided with her family's sacrifices? Emma's dreams teetered on the edge of a prestigious scholarship's horizon, offering a glimmer of hope to girls like her. However, the air around her grew thick with tension. The whispers in the hallways grew louder, laced with envy and malice. Students backed by powerful families saw her ambition as a threat, sabotaging her work and her confidence. Each horror story about rivals' attempts to undermine her chipped away at her resolve. Can ambition and loyalty coexist when life entangles them in a twisted knot? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With the diary clasped in her trembling hands, Emma stumbled upon a chilling revelation about her grandfather's mysterious disappearance, a bitter rivalry that intertwined her family's legacy with her pursuit of recognition. Each sentence she read pulled her deeper into doubt. Could she carry his dreams alongside her burgeoning hopes? With Cole's encouragement ringing in her ears, the pressure mounted. Her path stretched out like the desert trails she knew so well, yet it felt shrouded in shadows. Would she stand at the crossroads, balancing familial loyalty and her own ambitions? Every breath echoed the magnitude of her choices. With the upcoming interview looming, she lay awake at night, her heart racing with anguish. The threat of rivals and family legacy danced like a tempest in her mind. What path could she choose when both her past and future hung in the balance? Uncertainty clung to Emma like the dust of the desert, pulling her deeper into a whirlpool of turmoil, and she couldn't help but wonder if the power of love and legacy could push her to break free or pull her under. In the days leading up to her scholarship interview, Emma felt the weight of the world pressing down on her shoulders. The diary lay open on her desk, its pages filled with faded ink that filled her with both inspiration and dread. Each writing conjured memories of her grandfather, a man whose dreams had been crushed under the weight of rivalry. Did she dare unearth her own ambitions and risk the same fate? The luminous Arizona sky contrasted sharply with the dark thoughts swirling in her mind. Walking the familiar trails alone gave her solace. Yet now, even the flowers fluttering in the warm breeze seemed to whisper warnings. As she meticulously catalogued the native plants, she felt as though she was engaging in a secret battle, not just with her competitors at school, but with the legacy of her family, a lineage riddled with disappointment and lost promise. Cole's presence would often ignite a spark in her, a reminder that passion still thrived in the world. His innate understanding of the desert flora made her realize the depth of her knowledge. She found herself wanting to share the intricacies of botany with him, to craft a narrative that integrated both their journeys. Yet fear tightened her throat at the thought of exposing her vulnerabilities. Emma had been protective of her dreams, wary of their fragility. The morning of the scholarship interview dawned bright and clear, the air electric with possibilities. Standing before the mirror, she practiced her acceptance speech, each repetition reinforcing her self-belief. Yet as she caught a glimpse of herself, doubt crept in. Was she merely echoing her grandfather's words without embodying the spirit of his convictions? It was a question that gnawed at her gut. She felt anchored to the past, yet pushed toward an uncertain future. At the interview, the panel sat before her, their faces inscrutable. Each question swung like a pendulum, dissecting her motivations, her setbacks, and her ambitions. Emma's palms were clammy, yet as she answered, clarity washed over her. She spoke of her passion for botany, illustrating how it was not just a pursuit for herself, but a legacy she hoped to honor. The spark from Cole's encouragement flickered in her voice, solidifying her resolve. But as she concluded, that looming shadow of rivalry reappeared. A girl, Tiffany, with polished confidence and ties to the school's elite, edged her way forward, weaving a narrative laced with cunning and deceit. She challenged Emma's expertise, subtly pulling the thread of doubt through the fabric of Emma's presentation. For a fleeting moment, Emma wavered, the air heavy with tension. Then, like a sudden gust of wind through the desert, she felt it, the urge to confront her fears. Emma's voice steadied, and she turned the conversation back to the passion of discovery, drawing from the knowledge she had cultivated in secret. It was about sharing the beauty and importance of the local flora, a subject that transcended competition. She could feel Cole's spirit beside her, urging her forward. As she stepped out of the interview room, exhilaration coursed through her. It wasn't just an answer she had delivered, it was a declaration of her identity. But just as pride flickered inside her, the gnawing thought returned. Tiffany's smirk remained etched in Emma's mind, a reminder that victory could be as deceptive as it was elusive. With the scholarship's outcome uncertain, and her family's legacy a whisper in the wind, Emma felt a familiar swell of uncertainty replace her earlier confidence. Would she cultivate resilience from this confrontation, or would the repercussions of her rival haunt her? The answer lingered like a shadow behind her as she reached for her phone, uncertain whether to call Cole or bury her feelings in the silence of the desert once more. Choice loomed ahead, and with it, the fervent need to discover who she truly was beneath the layers of legacy and rivalry. Emma could either succumb to the fear of losing everything or forge her own path. As she contemplated her next move, one truth penetrated through her haze of uncertainty. Destiny is not merely inherited, it is forged. What would she decide? With the fading sun casting long shadows, the imminent silence wrapped around her, heavy with the weight of unresolved choices and deepening conflicts. The days following the interview were a blur of anxious anticipation mixed with an unshakable sense of restlessness. Emma often found herself staring into the depths of her grandfather's diary, pondering the words he had carefully scribed. While she sought guidance within its pages, they reminded her all too vividly of the dreams he had chased and the dangers he faced. Nevertheless, an inner tumult brewed. A fighting spirit urged her to embrace her potential rather than retreat into safety. With her phone still clutched in her hand, she ultimately decided to reach out to Cole, propelled by the need to share her thoughts. Before long, they settled on a sun-warmed rock amid their usual trail, surrounded by the azure expanse overhead. Cole's eager smile ignited the embers of her passion for botany, yet the shadow of Tiffany's challenge soon weighed heavily upon Emma's heart. "I feel like I've let her get to me," Emma admitted, the frustration bubbling to the surface. "She made me doubt my worth, my knowledge. Why did it matter what she thought?" Cole regarded her with genuine concern as he adjusted his wide-brimmed hat, blocking the sun. "It matters because you care. But don't confuse her opinion with your value. You're here because you have something to offer. You know that." For a moment, Emma wrestled with her conflicting thoughts. His encouragement was like a balm on her wounds, yet the jagged memory of Tiffany's voice echoed insidiously in her mind. "What if I'm not as good as I think? Maybe I'm just fooling myself." "You're more than just your fears, Emma. Your knowledge about the desert flora is unique. It's like a storyteller connecting with its roots. If you're afraid to share it with the world, how can you grow? His words lodged deep within her, and Emma found herself reflecting on the countless hours spent examining plants, marveling at their resilience. She realized she hadn't just learned about botany. She had developed a profound connection to those quiet lives around her. Each plant was a testimony to survival in a hostile world, a message she longed to tell. That evening, she returned home with newfound determination. Instead of opening her diary to read her grandfather's struggles, she flipped back a few pages, finding a blank section that beckoned for substance. Inspired, she began crafting her own narrative, not one filled with fear, but with passion and respect for the life she studied. Writing poured from her pen as she articulated the delicate balance between beauty and harshness in the world around her. Each sentence connected her experiences to that of the flora, blending her journey with their resilience. She envisioned presenting her work as a multimedia platform, not just through words, but through photographs and illustrations that captured their essence. Strategizing took over her thoughts. This was more than just a project. It was her chance to ignite conversations about ecology, to share the importance of preserving their environment amidst competitive landscapes. With each word, she felt her old doubts ebbing away, replaced by a relentless conviction. The devastating shadow of rivalry was being pierced by flames of potential. However, just as her spirit began to lift, another thought slithered in. Would this newfound direction only lead to more competition? Would she be risking everything, her dreams, friendships, and even her sanity, in pursuit of recognition? Emma's heart raced, caught in a gulf between aspiration and fear. Yet she knew one thing. She could no longer ignore this urge to create something bigger than herself, to stand up to the voice of doubt that had haunted her for far too long. She was far more than just a legacy to be maintained. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a fiery glow across the desert landscape, she felt the decision looming. To embrace this mission as a calling, or to surrender to the comfort of anonymity. In that moment, both fear and excitement coursed through her veins, a reminder that life is not a straightforward path, but rather an intricate tapestry woven with choices. Her determination to dive deeper into her nurturing role was poised to clash with the very fears she had carried for so long. Tomorrow would bring another opportunity to claim her voice, but for now, she grappled with the impending confrontation that awaited her, inside and outside. Emma closed her notebook, feeling a spark of resistance igniting within her as she left the folds of doubt behind. Would she be able to turn her new vision into reality, or would the threats of rivalry push her back into the shadows? Morning light filtered through her window, illuminating the chaos of papers strewn about her desk. Emma felt an urgent sense of purpose pulling her from sleep, spurring her to confront the challenges that lay ahead. The soft morning breeze carried with it the faint scent of desert blooms, fanning the flames of her resolve. Today, she would take a significant step toward transforming her vision into reality. Emma's mind buzzed with excitement and apprehension as she made her way to her favorite spot, the sunlit rock where she and Cole often conversed. Yet this time, she was prepared for something more than just a heart-to-heart. She envisioned sharing her thoughts raw and unfiltered. "I want to start a project," Emma began, her voice steadier than she expected. "I want to showcase desert flora, not just about their biological significance, but their narratives, how they thrive in harsh conditions. I think people need to see them as more than just plants." Cole's eyes sparkled with interest. "That sounds incredible. How do you envision bringing it all together?" At that moment, Emma experienced a sense of clarity. "It's not just a presentation. I want a multimedia platform that combines photography, art, and storytelling. Think of it as an experience, not just information. It could ignite conversations about preserving the desert's beauty." "Great vision," Cole nodded appreciatively. "But how do you plan to start? What's the first step?" Suddenly, excitement turned into anxiety as Emma's thoughts spiraled into uncertainty. "I don't know. What if I'm reaching too far? What if no one cares about this?" "Emma," Cole interjected, his tone firm yet encouraging. "You can't let doubt shape your journey. Great projects start with a single step. Why not start small? Maybe create an Instagram page showcasing local flora? Build your audience and see where it goes?" The idea resonated deeply. Emma envisioned curating a vibrant account filled with captivating images and personal stories entwined with the plants she loved. Each post could craft a narrative highlighting the struggle and resilience found in their existence, mirroring her own. "Okay, I'll do it," she declared, a thrill rippling through her. "I'll document not just the plants, but also my experiences, the challenges I face. It will be an honest reflection of my journey." Cole's grin widened, and he reached for her hand. "That's the spirit. You'll not only grow as an artist, but as a person. This could lead to incredible opportunities, Emma." As they sat on the rock, energized by the possibilities, Emma began to see the potential for her voice to make an impact. She would be telling her story, her challenges, her victories, intertwined with those of the flora she'd devoted herself to understanding. But as the excitement began to settle, thoughts of Tiffany's cutting remarks encroached once more, threatening the fragile positivity she had cultivated. Would this become another avenue for ridicule? The potential for criticism clouded the sunlight of her enthusiasm. Emma recalled the wall of doubt that Tiffany had created around her. Would she allow that wall to trap her once again? Reflecting on her conversations with Cole, she swiftly recognized that this project was about more than external validation. It was about her growth, her empowerment, and her unique perspective. The dreams she had once pushed to the back of her mind now surged forth with fervor. "But what if I fail?" she muttered, her voice less confident now. Cole raised an eyebrow, urging her to confront that fear. "Failure is part of the journey. You'll learn more in a failure than in a success. Besides, if you don't try, you've already failed." Though his words stung, they resonated profoundly. Perhaps it was time to face the specter of self-doubt head-on, to redefine what failure meant to her. Emma pictured the beauty of turning vulnerability into strength, of learning from each misstep while striving for growth. With that thought, a fierce determination surged within her. The moment of truth had arrived. Would she step into the light or remain in the shadow? Her heart raced as she made her decision. Tomorrow she would create that Instagram account, her platform for nurturing the connection between humans and the natural world. Excitement melded with the sweet strain of fear as she envisioned her first post. But just as she felt a surge of readiness, a ripple of unease coursed through her. The fear of being seen and judged lingered. Would she truly find her audience? Was she prepared to embrace the scrutiny that would inevitably come? As the sun set, the horizon ablaze with color, Emma found herself staring into the unknown with one question burning in her chest. Was she ready to truly be seen? Tomorrow would reveal the answer, and the weight of her decision pressed heavily upon her, one that could change everything. The following morning sprung to life with a resounding echo of possibilities. Emma awakened with the sun's rays warming her skin, a soft reminder of the commitment she had made the night before. The tantalizing notion of creating her Instagram account buzzed in her mind, entwined with a sense of trepidation. A small voice urged her to retreat to the comforts of inaction, but a louder, bolder one pushed her forward. With a quick breakfast behind her, she settled at her cluttered desk, the clutter a reflection of her chaotic thoughts. The computer screen flickered to life, and Emma stared at the blinking cursor like a lighthouse beacon in the fog of her uncertainty. Creating an account felt monumental, but merely typing a name felt as if she were on the precipice of a leap into the unknown. The page opened before her, a blank canvas awaiting her colors and strokes. Emma took a deep breath, steeling herself against the looming specter of critique. "It's just a name," she muttered under her breath, attempting to shake off the weight of perfectionism. With fingers poised, she typed "Desert Fables." A small sigh of relief followed. It was a name that encapsulated her intentions, merging storytelling with the essence of her subject matter. The simple act felt like unshackling her identity. Next came the profile picture. Without thinking, she uploaded an image of a sun-drenched desert bloom that had captivated her the previous week. Its resilience mirrored her own aspirations. As she stared at the fledgling profile, doubt began to creep in again, doubting her choice of the photo, questioning the name. She took a moment, silencing her negative thoughts by recalling Cole's encouragement. "I can do this," she reaffirmed, and snatched her phone to document her first post. She'd spent last night jotting down her perspective and experiences, drawing inspiration from the flora surrounding her, but sharing them felt like revealing fragments of her soul. After several attempts to articulate her thoughts, she settled on a simple yet poignant narrative. In the desert, life finds a way to thrive under the harshest conditions. Every bloom tells a story of resilience. Today marks the beginning of a journey not just through the desert, but through my own struggles and triumphs. Welcome to Desert Fables. With the hastily taken photograph alongside her caption, her finger hovered over the post button, trembling with fear. What if her words fell flat? What if no one resonated with her story, leaving her feeling exposed and vulnerable in a digital realm? In that fraught moment, a flicker of self-awareness dawned upon Emma. This wasn't simply about likes or followers. It was a declaration of self, an avenue for articulation. She wasn't merely showcasing plants. She was pulling back the curtains on her journey. The button clicked, and the world outside her window seemed to pause, each second an eternity laden with the weight of her decision. As notifications chimed softly, signaling interactions on her post, anticipation coiled in her stomach. Within hours, she noticed a smattering of likes and comments, some from familiar faces, but a few from unknown accounts, and for the first time, a subtle warmth spread through her chest, overshadowing her fears. Each new notification felt like a reassuring pat on the back. However, a new realization began to weave through her excitement, a creeping anxiety of what lay ahead. Would she maintain the momentum? Could she continue to be authentic every time she pressed post? Would Tiffany's contemptuous thoughts rear their ugly head in commentary? Emma leaned back in her chair, wrestling with these thoughts as the notifications dwindled. Perhaps this was a test, a consolidation of her resolve against the naysayers, herself included. The doubt was alive and well, but in this moment she had fostered something powerful, a community, however small, that had taken an interest in her vision. Tonight she would explore further, crafting a deeper narrative for her next post, one that might reveal even more of her struggles. As the day faded into twilight, the unease of judgment hung around her like a shadow, intertwining with her newfound excitement. The tension was palpable, sparking in her chest the need to navigate this unpredictable journey. All that remained was to confront her fears and face whoever might be lurking in the wings, Tiffany or otherwise. Tomorrow would demand her courage, for doubts didn't disappear on their own. They had to be faced fiercely. Emma stared into the abyss of her uncertainties, her heart beating steadily. Would she allow herself to be truly seen, or would she retreat again into the shadows? The morning light broke through her window, illuminating the remnants of her resolve from the night before. Emma sat up, feeling the weight of expectation nudging her from all directions. More than just an Instagram account, Desert Fables was becoming a vital part of her identity. It wasn't just about the posts anymore. It was about confronting her insecurities and unveiling her truth to the world. Determined to engage with her audience in a deeper way, she brewed a fresh pot of coffee and opened her laptop. She scrolled through her feed, each post capturing snippets of courage from other creators sharing their own stories. Emma was struck by the honesty and vulnerability displayed. Inspiration coursed through her veins. However, the notion soon gave birth to the nattering comparison within her mind, a telltale flicker of doubt whispering that her words might never hold the same impact. In a moment of frustration, she shut her laptop with a snap, forcing herself to step away from the screen. Outside, the desert landscape shimmered under an expansive sky, reminding her of the grandeur that waited beyond her walls. There was a wealth of stories hiding within her surroundings, waiting to be coaxed into existence. Perhaps she needed to extract even more meaning from her world, to dig deeper. Emma stepped outside, inhaling sharply as the dry air filled her lungs. This was the essence of her journey, she thought, not one confined to pixels and screens, but woven into the very fabric of nature, the unfiltered, untamed beauty surrounding her. With every step she took, a surge of determination ignited within. She couldn't just narrate experiences. She had to make herself truly vulnerable, share the messy, unedited parts of herself without fear of judgment. Returning to her desk, Emma opened a fresh document and set out to dig deeper into her own story. Maybe she would write about the days when self-doubt overshadowed her ability to bloom like the desert flowers she admired. Breathing through the tension, she allowed her fingers to flow freely over the keyboard, the characters and words merging into a raw narrative. The truth is, I don't feel confident every day. There are mornings where the thought of sharing my voice is paralyzing, she typed, each line resonating with her own struggles. But embracing that fear is part of thriving. It's the learning curve that molds my journey. As she wrote, her heart raced with the knowledge that these words would reveal unguarded fragments of her soul. She was giving herself permission to be flawed and still valid. Emma pulled back to review her work, pride swelling at the realization that she was fighting the urge to edit herself. She was finally in touch with her essence. Just as she readied to post the new narrative, a notification lit up her phone. It was a comment from Tiffany, something Emma had dreaded. "Nice try, but is anyone actually interested in your shallow observations?" The words floated there, casting shadows over her freshly formed piece. Emma exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of anxiety return. Caught in a whirlwind of conflicting emotions, she confronted her instincts to respond immediately, to defend herself, to engage in a futile battle. Yet, with a tethered breath, she realized reacting in anger would only undermine the steady ground she had begun to build. Instead, she opened her document again, deciding to write an empowering response right then and there, not to Tiffany, but to herself. "I am not defined by someone else's perceptions. I am crafting my narrative," she resolutely typed, letting the defiance echo through the digital silence around her. That simple act of assertion reinvigorated her spirit. Perhaps this was the moment she needed, the very confrontation that would fortify her path. Would Tiffany continue to seek her out, seeking dominance amid her uncertainties? Or would this shake-up empower Emma to rise through the adversity? With renewed vigor, she clicked post, solidifying her defiance. But the doubts twinged again. In laying bare her soul, would she truly be seen, or merely judged by those unwilling to invest in her narrative? Emma glanced at her reflection in the window, the desert blooming vividly behind her. It was time to confront the specter of judgment head-on. The moment had arrived, challenging but necessary. Would she be strong enough to stand her ground as she ventured further into this unpredictable journey? Emma's heart raced as she stared at her screen, the post glowing back at her like a beacon of vulnerability. Each word, once infused with apprehension, now throbbed with defiance. She had chosen authenticity over perfection, an act of courage that felt both liberating and terrifying. But that immediate wave of empowerment was soon swept away when she heard a soft knock on her door. Startled, she turned to see her neighbor, Mrs. Jensen, standing with a steaming mug in her hand. The elderly woman, a longtime resident of the area, had a nurturing presence that felt familiar and safe. "I thought you might want some company," she said, her voice graced with warmth. Reluctantly, Emma pulled her gaze from the screen and invited Mrs. Jensen inside. They settled onto her worn couch, and the aroma of coffee filled the room, merging seamlessly with the dusty scent carried from the desert. "Your posts have been gaining quite the attention," Mrs. Jensen observed, folding her hands in her lap. "I saw your last comment and couldn't help but smile. It takes a strong heart to respond like that, especially to naysayers." Emma felt a flush of warmth creeping up her cheeks. I want to be honest. I'm tired of hiding behind filters and curated perfection." Mrs. Jensen nodded, her eyes sparkling with understanding. "Being true to yourself is the most liberating thing you can do. The world out there is harsh, but it's also beautiful, and your authenticity is like a breath of fresh air." As they spoke, an idea started to germinate in Emma's mind. Perhaps she could not only share her own stories, but also those of the incredible people around her, each with their unique tales of resilience against life's challenges. Inspired by Mrs. Jensen's kindness, she saw a pathway towards something greater, an opportunity to celebrate not just her journey, but the myriad narratives blossoming all around her. "So what if," Emma began, her excitement bubbling over, "I expanded Desert Fables? What if I began interviewing people in our community? Our stories are all intertwined, and maybe showcasing them will help others see the beauty in their own lives." Mrs. Jensen clapped her hands together, delight glowing in her eyes. "Yes, that is a marvelous idea. Stories are how we connect as humans, each one uniquely precious." With renewed confidence, Emma jumped off the couch, barely able to contain her enthusiasm. "I can start with you," she exclaimed. "Tell me everything about how you've lived here alone for so long and what keeps you inspired." Mrs. Jensen chuckled, her face lighting up with delight. "Oh dear, you may need a bit more coffee for that." As Emma brewed another pot, she felt an unexpected rush of creativity. It was as if the desert had infused her spirit with fresh energy. Sharing her own vulnerabilities had sparked a new flame within her, a drive to explore the stories around her and weave them into her narrative. The prospect thrilled and terrified her. What if others were as unwelcoming as Tiffany? For every voice that questioned her intent, there might be 10 who would embrace the connections fostered by shared experiences. The idea took form in her mind, and she quickly grabbed her notebook, jotting down potential questions and themes that might shape her new venture. But as the pages filled, a questioning flicker danced through her, a consent to explore not just others' lives, but also her own changing motivations. Could she truly uncover the depths of her community, unearth stories that resonated, and still remain authentic to her voice? When she turned back to Mrs. Jensen, excitement glinting in her eyes, she knew she had only just begun. The spark of change ignited a sense of purpose she hadn't anticipated. She didn't just want to rise above judgment. She was ready to embrace the vastness of shared stories. As the evening drew near and shadows crept into her space, Emma felt anchored in new possibilities. But the question remained, could she forge these connections authentically while still nurturing her own growth? And who would step forward to share their tale first? As the first light of dawn painted the desert landscape in hues of gold and peach, Emma woke with a rush of anticipation. The idea of expanding desert fables was not just a flicker of inspiration. It had ignited a roaring passion within her. Determined to make this vision a reality, she grabbed her notebook, filled with potential questions and themes, and headed outside to sip her coffee while observing the awakening world around her. Each bird's song seemed like a call to action. She had always admired the resilience of nature, how it adapted through harsh conditions, yet thrived with a beauty of its own. This was the spirit she wanted to capture in the stories she would tell, raw, unrefined, and splendidly real. Emma's mind raced as she envisioned her first interview with Mrs. Jensen. She could already hear the elder woman's laughter echoing in response to her questions, every story a thread in the rich fabric of community life. Yet a flicker of doubt wanted to seep in. Who was she to prance into others' lives, seeking their most intimate tales of struggle and triumph? Emma halted her thoughts, shaking her head as if to dispel the negativity. This was about connection, not judgment. With a newfound focus, she set out to prepare. Emma had a knack for observations, how people carried themselves, the subtleties in their voices that revealed deeper emotions. Yet as she crafted her questions, she realized she needed more than surface-level inquiries. The stories would only resonate if she dug deeper, if she created a space where vulnerability was met with trust. As she typed and scribbled ideas onto her notepad, Emma remembered a time she had visited a struggling ranch just outside town. The owner, a sturdy cowboy named Caleb, had spun tales of love lost and regained, alongside the trials of keeping his ranch alive. What if he could be her second interview? But how would she approach him after years of silence? There was the ever-present fear of rejection, a remnant of her past experiences, still echoing from Tiffany's harsh words. Yet the thought of Caleb's fiery stories surged her ambitions. What if his story resonated with countless others? The possibility drove her. Indeed, she could craft a narrative that honored not only their vulnerabilities, but also her own burgeoning strength as a storyteller. With purposeful intensity, she drafted a tentative email to Caleb. Crafting the words felt potent. She was no longer just a passive observer of her landscape. She was stepping forward, controlled yet excited, confronting her fears of inadequacy. Hours later, after sending her message, Emma felt restless. It was then she recalled an old adage her father had once shared: "Fortune favors the bold." She had taken the leap into authenticity already. Perhaps it was time to leap further into uncharted territories. Deciding to take action, she hopped into her car and drove toward the ranch. As she navigated through the sun-soaked roads, her mind buzzed with hope. Even if Caleb disagreed to be interviewed, she knew this adventurous pursuit of stories would sculpt her path forward. When she arrived, the ranch exuded an air of serenity, its expansive space reminding her of the significant contrast between her comfortable but stagnated life and the unrestrained freedom of a life lived under the open sky. Just then, Caleb appeared, tall and rugged, silhouetted against the horizon. Emma felt her heart quicken, a mix of excitement and nerves flooding her being. What if he declines? She thought fleetingly. Yet she also felt a stirring insistence, the need to chase this dream, no matter the outcome. As she approached, determination fought against fear, swirling in her chest. She was transforming before her own eyes, but ahead of her lay a cliff, one that required a confident leap. Taking a deep breath, she was ready to uncover not just Caleb's story, but perhaps her own along the way. The budding relationship with her community felt crucially close, yet terrifyingly distant. How this connection would unfold remained to be seen, but Emma knew the journey had just begun. And just as she prepared to speak, she saw a flicker of uncertainty in Caleb's eyes. Would she finally step up and claim her place in this story before him? Or would she let fear derail her ambitions once again? Emma's breath caught in her throat as Caleb's gaze swept over her, uncertainty mingling with a flicker of recognition. She had once known him only as the steadfast rancher who spun tales inspired by the heartland, yet standing before him now felt different. She was no longer just a visitor. She was an aspiring storyteller, vulnerable yet driven by the need to capture the narratives that threaded their lives together. "Caleb," she began, her voice steadier than she felt. The sun glinted off his broad shoulders, intensifying the sense of the moment. "I've started a project called Desert Fables. I'd love to hear your stories if you're willing to share." Caleb shifted slightly, lowering his head. The wind tousled his hair as he considered her words. Emma could see a mixture of surprise and caution simmering in his expression, and it prompted her heart to race with both hope and fear. "What makes you think my stories are worth telling?" His deep voice was a drawl, a slow, deliberate cadence that hinted at years of experience. In that question, Emma sensed a challenge, but also an invitation. Here was an opportunity to not only learn from him, but also confront her own reservations. "Because I think they matter," she responded, her determination overcoming the nervousness clenching her stomach. "Each narrative carries meaning, connects us to one another. I believe sharing them could show others that they're not alone in their struggles." She watched as Caleb's brow furrowed, wrestling with something she could not name. He finally released a deep sigh. "Stories are burdens, lass, not just fairy tales. They weigh heavy on the heart." The shadows cast by the late sun flickered across his features, a testament to the life he had endured. Emma took a deliberate step closer, her heart pounding in sync with the rhythm of the moment. "Then let's carry them together. You can lighten that burden by sharing. I'm here to listen." A flicker of intrigue ignited in his gaze, but he remained silent, his eyes searching for something in hers. It was a challenge she had not anticipated. Would he risk vulnerability, knowing well the cost associated with it? "What do you really want to hear?" Caleb asked. The weight of his question pressed against her, initiating a deep unease that momentarily quelled her passion. She was faced with a choice. Would she reveal her own fears, the echo of self-doubt that sought to silence her? "Everything," Emma said, her voice softening. "I want to understand your challenges, your triumphs. I want to know the man behind the stories. I want to know you." In that moment of honesty, she felt a shift both within herself and in the air between them. Caleb met her gaze, contemplation manifesting across his rugged features. "You have no idea what you're asking for." "Maybe not," Emma admitted, "but I can't know unless you let me in." There was a long silence, and Emma's mind raced with the implications of his potential rejection. Yet she felt an unrelenting urge to push through that fear. Could she truly begin this journey of storytelling without risking her own heart? Was she ready for whatever truths lay ahead? Finally, Caleb broke the pause, a reluctant smile grazing his lips. "All right, lass, I'll share, but you'll have to brace yourself. It ain't pretty." Relief flooded Emma, tempered by the weight of the responsibility she had just undertaken. This was about more than telling stories. It was about bridging the gaps, both for herself and for those she sought to represent. "Thank you," Emma breathed, her heart swelling with gratitude and a twinge of doubt. The very fear that had once shackled her started to loosen, replaced by a nascent sense of direction. As they settled into a shaded corner near his barn, Caleb began to speak, and with each word, Emma tuned into not just his experiences but her own unfolding journey, a journey that fused their narratives together in a profound way. But as the shadows lengthened around them and the daylight started to fade, Emma couldn't shake the feeling of impending emotional weight. How deep would this plunge into Caleb's story draw her? And what would she discover about herself in the process? That question nagged at her as Caleb's voice wove through tales of love and loss, a haunting melody that hinted at darkness yet remained grounded by resilience. She understood she was standing at the precipice of something monumental, unaware of the revelations that awaited her just beyond the horizon. Emma took a deep breath, bracing herself for the stories ahead, knowing she would not just listen but become entwined in every word. And as Caleb's eyes gleamed with distant memories, she felt a shiver crest along her spine, knowing one thing for certain. The moment would demand more from her than she had anticipated. Would she be able to confront what she uncovered? Or would the echoes of her past threaten the very essence of her burgeoning identity as a storyteller? As the sun began its descent, painting the sky in increasingly darker hues, Emma pulled up a chair beside Caleb. Anticipation tinged her senses. This moment marked a divergence, a step deeper into not just Caleb's narrative but her own transformative journey. Each story unraveled a bit more of her, from the shy girl overshadowed by uncertainty to the young woman ready to embrace every facet of existence. Caleb's voice resonated as he recounted tales from his youth, the struggles of maintaining a ranch under relentless adversity, the bittersweet echoes of love lost to the demands of life and commitment. Emma listened intently, her heart a synchronistic beat to his revelations. Each word he shared felt like a fresh stroke on the canvas of her emerging story. "Everything we face shapes who we become," he said, casting his eyes toward the wild horizon. "Those moments of struggle are what make us truly alive, but sharing them?" He paused, taking a deep breath. "That can be the hardest part." Emma nodded, recognizing her mirrored hesitation. "I get that. It's terrifying to lay our truths bare, but it's also liberating. When we speak our truth, it resonates, it helps us connect, and it can ignite change." Caleb regarded her with newfound respect, a silent acknowledgement of their shared journeys. With newfound resolve, Emma realized she was not merely there to record his story. She was there to embrace the shadows of her own, to confront the fear that had long kept her running in circles. "The world outside is judgmental," he continued, his brow furrowed. "Sharing stories makes you vulnerable to the very people who may not care." "That's a risk I'm willing to take," Emma asserted, her voice unwavering. "It's about letting go of that fear, about knowing that my voice matters, and maybe, just maybe, it inspires someone else to step into the light too." In that moment, Caleb's eyes sparkled with understanding, a recognition that they both walked paths riddled with doubt yet illuminated by hope. They were both striving for something greater, a yearning to transcend the limitations imposed by their pasts. The barriers that once separated their stories began to dissolve, weaving their lives interconnectedly against the desert backdrop. As the last vestiges of daylight slipped beneath the horizon, Emma felt a surge of confidence swelling within her. She leaned closer, ready to share not only in Caleb's experiences, but also unveil her own struggles, the fear that had long prevented her from pursuing her dreams without trepidation. "You're right, sometimes it's scary to voice my thoughts, especially with doubters lingering around. I felt that heaviness too." Caleb's careful gaze anchored her. "Then don't shy away from it. Those burdens are precisely what you've transformed through your project. Embrace them, every fear, every doubt. Share them with the world. You've already taken the first step." Emma nodded, reflecting upon her aspirations for the Desert Fables project. She envisioned not merely sharing Flora's stories, but intertwining her narrative, cultivating a sense of community with every story shared. By demonstrating that growth and vulnerability are intertwined, she could kindle connections with others who had similar paths. With each tale Caleb unfolded, Emma sensed herself less as a passive observer and more as a central figure in this larger narrative tapestry. And as the evening deepened into twilight, essence filled the air, a reminder that while stories can carry burdens, they also carry profound truths, capable of igniting hope. "Let's do this again, Caleb," she urged, her heart racing with connection. "Let's showcase your story, the struggles and triumphs. It can illuminate others who feel lost. We can help transform fears into stories of resilience." He nodded thoughtfully. "If this is your journey, count me in. But don't forget, your voice matters as much as mine." As they parted for the evening, Emma walked away transformed, her spirit buoyed by promise. The connection with Caleb forged a clarity in her path, fostering her identity and breathing new life into desert fables. She was ready to not only share, but embrace her narrative fully, shunning the fear that shrouded her. In the following days, Emma kicked her project into high gear, crafting a series of interviews, each one further solidifying her sense of purpose. The stories she uncovered were raw, each one resonating deeply with her own saga of resilience. Amidst these stories, the inevitable doubts still whispered, but Emma learned to quiet them. With each post, she shared not only the beauty of the flora she cherished, but the self-reflective journey accompanying her burgeoning identity, how she had transformed from a timid girl into a woman breaking free from societal and self-imposed limitations. The day came when a new post featuring Caleb's story reached a wider audience than she had ever imagined. Comments flooded in, filled with gratitude and connections formed by shared experiences. The stories of struggle turned into threads woven tightly, forming a visible community of voices echoing affirmations of authenticity and strength. "Your words inspire and empower," one follower wrote. "This is exactly what I needed to hear." As Emma absorbed each supportive comment, something profound unfolded. She learned the power of vulnerability. Each story she shared became a bridge, creating a tapestry of experiences that echoed far beyond her expectations. In each thread, she saw kindred spirits rising, tethering their experiences to hers, and connecting through shared humanity. Emma realized that each response, each engagement fulfilled a deep longing she hadn't fully acknowledged, a craving for connection that propelled her forward. With newfound confidence, she felt herself dancing in between solitude and community. She had conquered the shadows that once loomed large over her aspirations. And just as she allowed her voice to blossom, she inspired others to do the same, spreading stories like seeds across the landscape of the internet. In that moment of clarity, Emma understood. Her transformation wasn't merely for her own gain. It was about forging connections and building a legacy honoring every story shared. The warmth of satisfaction poured through her. She had risen above fear, claiming her space, not just as a storyteller, but as an architect of dialogue weaving through history. The lingering doubts extinguished, revealing a solid foundation built from authentic expression. She had achieved something monumental, her dreams, insecurities, and aspirations braided together beautifully, an intricate testament of a life lived fiercely against a backdrop of struggle. And as the final rays of sunlight dipped into the horizon, Emma embraced her reality fully, grounded in purpose and self-assurance. She was ready to craft the next chapter, a vibrant homage to the narratives blossoming around her, creating a legacy where dreams intertwined with stories, leaving her voice audibly resonant against the wilderness of life. Now, more than ever, she believed in herself and in the stories waiting to be told. Join tonight in celebrating the triumph of narratives, the transformative power of authenticity, and the unwavering resolve that comes with stepping into your own light. Don't wait even one more second. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to show your support.